It continues. We finished the first part of the trial, but we're not going back to the investigation. We're going back to the trial. Honey, did yesterday answer any questions?
Well, we know that the forger is actually the daughter Vera instead of Drew. Um, I got a little off track with maybe Drew had poisoned himself, but it looks like he mistakenly took the stamp that was set as a trap that I guess Vera had figured out was going to be a trap. Um, so that answered that. Like he may have, and he deposited the poison from the stamp onto the coffee. So he wasn't actually poisoned by the coffee, and we know that that stamp came in the blackmail letter, I guess we would call it.
Either that or a letter requesting his services.
Yeah. Um, so that answers that, but we still haven't figured out why his rough sketches are our crimes. Um, and we don't know who wrote that letter to him.
Mm-hmm.
So we did get one kind of thing answered because we thought Drew Misham or
Drew Misham, Drew
Misham
Misham, who
that
knows?
he was, the forger, but the girl admitted to it. So it's taken a little bit of a turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a feeling there's going to be some more turns coming up, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, we're probably not going to get to it tonight, but there is a trial section um, not too far from now that I'm looking forward to doing with you.
Okay.
All right?
And the reporter's weird.
Yes, he is. Reporter looks like clown, end quote. Okay, so where exactly does this leave us, Apollo? Well, the Jew Misham who was killed wasn't Jew Misham the forger, basically. Huh? Well then, who was he? Well, he was actually doing her nails. So, you really made those forgeries? Yes, for father. I know it was wrong. Could you tell us how it happened? My father was a painter. I loved painting ever since I was a child. One day father saw it in me. He saw that I had the talent. The talent for making forgeries. How should I say it? It was not only paintings I made. Given the materials, I can make anything. Anything. Father was so proud, and I so happy. But, in the end, I was making those forgeries. I've never had a good constitution nor personality. I know very little of the world outside my door. Now, because of me, Father is... Do you know about this red envelope? I remember that envelope. It was some time ago. So you were already creating your works back then. I started when I was only 12 years old. So the one who figured out the stamp was poison, that was... Mr. Justice, it's time. To the courtroom, please. Right. Out of time. Wait, Vera, just one more thing, please. Those 3 paintings in the studio. I painted those as part of my work. Right. See, we checked them out and we saw what was underneath. We saw the rough sketches underneath the 3 finished paintings. I see. Mr. Justice? Yes? Father, he knew of you. Of both of you. Your late father. He was watching, gathering information. All about the Wright and Company law offices. But lately, we're not doing just law. Yes, you do tricks, gags to amuse, and play piano. Well, they're not really gags. Yet when Father heard you had resumed the legal business, how pleased he was. Who was Mr. Misham? How am I supposed to know? What if he was Daddy's daddy? Judging from the relative ages involved, I'd say it's highly unlikely. Things are already confusing enough with all these daddies running around. We know that the victim's daughter, Vera, was the forger. What does this mean for the case? Guess we're about to find out. Court is now back in session. Vera seems pretty tense. She's practically chewing her fingernails clean off. Perhaps you could begin by telling us how it all worked. How did you set up this Drew Misham forger persona? There's that stare again. She's drilling. I know it's hard for you, but hey, he's a handsome guy. What's hard? Very well, miss. If you would, did you really make those detestable forgeries? Perhaps you'd rather answer my question. Were you the one who painted that painting? The remarkably similar one? Ah, yes. I painted it, yes. Father praised me quite highly for it. So, she was the one who made the forgeries. Yet she did not wish to reveal the truth of their operation, so the victim was a stand-in, a decoy. To the world at large, he was the forger, not her. I've done a bad thing. I have, haven't I? Regardless, we need a little more information. About, for instance, this. You have seen this before, yeah? Yes. It was in the desk drawer. Very well, you may proceed with your testimony. Tell us everything you know about this envelope. I created things and Father sold them. This envelope came after my first work. That was other than a painting. Father handled the deal, all of it. I received the stamp that was in that envelope. It was after that job that we moved to the current studio. There certainly was much of great interest in your testimony. Not that the witness realizes it. Very well, please begin the cross-examination. Right, okay. I need more information about this forger. This Drew Misham. I think we're gonna be pressing her on this. So these things you were making, you mean paintings identical to other paintings, right? The closer they were, the happier Father was. I was happy too. Still, you're quite young now. When did you begin this work? My first painting sold when I was 12. Your Honor, she had no idea what she was doing was illegal. Easy there, little attorney. You're not here to defend her for the crime of forgery. Oh, true. Please tell us more about this envelope. This envelope that may very well have killed your father. Alright. So what work was that?
We did talk about forging evidence.
By other than a painting, you mean you'd only done paintings up to that point? Yes. But Father had a realization. He noticed my talent extended to making things other than paintings. For instance, a letter someone had written, or a fingerprint left upon a cup, or a signature on a document, a seal upon a letter. None of this makes her sound very innocent at all. And the $100,000 promised in this letter was the start. The beginning of a new industry for Drew Misham. A new industry? The creation of items to be used in criminal proceedings. Forging evidence, in other words. Uh-oh. So you didn't know how the things you were making were being used. I enjoy painting very much. I think I understand. The Fraulein has lived in an unusual little world. Can you tell us what happened to the papers that were in this envelope? Father signed them and sent them back, I believe. Did he follow the instructions? Send in the enclosed envelope. A rather important matter. Give your answer some thought. What do you mean, you received it? Did I do something wrong? You didn't use that stamp because it was dangerous, correct? Deadly poison on the back. Atroquinine. A moment, Air Forehead. You can't force an answer upon the witness. Now then, perhaps you would tell us, Fraulein Vera, why did you receive this stamp? Is something wrong? It was beautiful. Ah, you mean it was one of those commemorative stamps? Yes, I think it was. So, you didn't know about the poison? I guess not. So the trap failed by chance, by mistake, thanks to this commemorative stamp. Quite the close call. You mean you moved to where the current Drew studio is? Yes, we saw very few people there. I began drawing picture books. This single job had tied them to the criminal underworld. I think Mr. Misham wished to reduce their visibility in the world at large. When we had to meet someone for some reason, Father posed as the creator of the work. So that was the real essence of the artist Drew Misham. You did the work and he supplied the face. So, you really didn't know anything, did you? You had no idea how much danger you were in. Apparently not. About this commemorative stamp, could you tell us more about it? It was very pretty, and more than that, yes? It was a picture of people I liked at the time. This is something new. Apparently, we've got some cross-examination yet ahead of us. If you would be so kind as to continue your testimony, Fraulein. The stamp was a picture of my favorite magicians, so I kept it. You're confusing mysterious with freaky. Father took me when I was very young. It was a great magic show. I loved it so much. See? See? Isn't magic great? Fine, great, yeah, sure. No need to get all excited. But the magic troupe we saw quite sad. Did she just say what I think she said? Magic troupe? Now where have I heard that before? The red envelope came after she'd completed her first job. That makes it a letter from her client, whoever wanted the forgery made. Apollo? We're close, we just have to piece together the parts. A deadly weapon in a red envelope, and the path it took to take Drew Misham's life. So I don't think she said anything that's a lie, but I think based on how Apollo reacted, I think we just have to show that it was the troupe we think it is. Which would be this, I believe. Those magicians you like, was it this bunch? Apollo, they're not a bunch. I see. Still, I have to wonder, why include a commemorative stamp like that in the business letter? Good question. Well, pretty stamps are always better, and you can't beat Troupe Gamarier. But the whole murder plan was a failure because of it. Ironic, don't you think? Prosecutor Gavin? Prosecutor Gavin? Gramarier. What's with Gavin? Might I ask just one question of this witness? In your testimony just now, you stated this was your first work that was other than a painting. Please tell me, what exactly did you make? Can I ask why? No. Answer the question. Now. Eek. Prosecutor Gavin, you're usually not the one whose volume concerns me. Yes, it is unbecoming of me, I apologize. But I must know, please, Miss Misham, tell me. It was a book. A single page in a book. A book. Please be more specific. It was a handwritten book. Like a diary. No! I don't know! What's wrong with Prosecutor Gavin? He looks like he just saw a ghost. Miss Misham, this book. Was there a picture of a silk hat on the back cover, yes or no? How did you know? Prosecutor Gavin, the defendant is answering all of your questions. Stop badgering her. He's told you nothing, has he? Your soiled, sullied mentor, nothing? Sullied who? Phoenix Wright, who else? Daddy? He never told you about the trial 7 years ago? About how he came to lose his attorney's badge? It was a certain piece of evidence that decided his fate, you know. A certain diary. On the back it bore the mark of a silk hat. What? Phoenix Wright, tossed out of the profession by false evidence, and the forger who made that evidence is this girl standing right in front of me. Vera, you must tell us. The evidence you made was used in a trial 7 years ago. Who asked you, Misham, you, to forge that evidence? For all of our sakes, who was it? We only met once. You met the client. Well, who was it? It was... What's going on with Vera? She's staring at Prosecutor Gavin's face again. Yes, what? Is there something about me? I remember clearly. I remember who gave me the book, the diary. Who was it? Vera! The devil. The part I told you about?
Mm-hmm.
It's about to happen, actually. Defendant Vera Misham, condition unconscious. Examiner's diagnosis, acute atroquinine poisoning. This ends the recording of the trial for the murder of Drew Misham. Vera Misham was, during the trial, poisoned by an unknown assailant. The doses was just under the lethal amount, sparing the defendant's life. She is currently in intensive care and is not to be disturbed for any reason. A very simple case at first glance, until it finally began to show its true colors. The long road to the truth takes us to the record of another trial. In some ways, that was the starting point of it all. And that is where we must go to find the whole truth.
That was a very short section.
It was. But you notice that the music that played is the first game's court music. Showdown time. I lost. It's only a game of poker. A game I've played for a long time, and only lost twice. Who was the first? The man I killed, of course. Well, it seems I found the partner I've been looking for all along. Over a game of cards? Why, yes, over a game of cards. That was how we first met, 7 years ago. Phoenix Wright's final trial. Whew, okay. It's been a long time since I felt like such a rookie. Gotta try and relax. Ah, good morning, Mr. Enigmar. I'm sorry to have sprung this on you so suddenly. I received the files from your previous attorney only yesterday. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure I'm prepared. I understand I am asking the impossible of you. Yes, well, you haven't really told me what happened yet. All we did was play cards. And that was enough. Actually, it wasn't, trust me. Ooh! Morning, Daddy! Ah, I'm so glad you came. You okay, Daddy? They picking on you? Ha 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 ha. I am fine as always. This old boy is here to help me after all. That's young man to you. Good morning. That's a cute outfit you have on. Thanks. My first show's today after all. Oh, I'm sure it is. What the heck is she talking about? Oh, old boy. Huh, me? Look what he started. Here. What's this? I don't know, I just got it over there in the hall. They told me to give it to the old boy in the blue suit with the spiky hair. They said it was really important. What's this? A memo for you or some such? Not from the looks of it. What is this? Looks like a page from someone's diary. I'll give it a read later. Well, how do you feel about the trial today? We'll get through it, somehow. Incidentally, the prosecutor today is a new guy here. Ah, an easy win then, yes? They're calling him a true thoroughbred in the history of the prosecutor's office. Of course, there's one of those every year. The switching of attorneys just before the trial. I know it is a difficult situation I put you in. But, allow me to say one thing, Mr. Wright. Yes? They will not be able to pronounce me guilty today. So, do your best, but do not worry. First time a defendant's ever given me a pep speech. I'll do what I can. Ha 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 ha. I see you do not understand. You see, it will be impossible for them to declare a verdict. Impossible? Yes, isn't that right, Trucy? Yep, you bet, Daddy. My first look at the case was only yesterday, and the information I was given was a tad bit lacking, to be honest. Still, I'll do what I can for their sake. I believe the curtains will be lifting any time now. I am in your capable hands, Mr. Wright. My client is Shady Enigmar, known to the world as Zack Grimarrier, a wildly popular magician, star of Troupe Grimarrier. His mentor, Magnifi Grimarrier, was a rare breed of magician.
I thought he looked like Shady Smith.
He single-handedly ushered in a golden age of stage magic until he was shot dead, and Zack Grimarrier is the suspect.
Who did he shoot?
Magnifi Grimarrier.
Okay.
Court is now in session for the trial of Shady Enigmar. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Is the prosecution ready? I was just thinking, is this what all the fuss is about? Bit of a buzzkill, really. Buzzkill? Is this some new kind of crime? One of the worst. This is a trial, yeah? Where are the sweaty palms, the pounding hearts? A Gaviner's concert's got 10 times the thrill this gig's got. Who were you again? Clavier Gavin. I came to get the party started, legally, yeah? Gavin, defense attorney Christoph Gavins? Ah, figures my bro's more famous in this part of town. Clavier Gavin, lead singer for the mega hit band The Gaviners. You're out of your league, rock boy. I know what you're thinking. You're out of your league, rock boy. True, my debut single, 13 Years Hard Time for Love, went platinum overnight. But that's just a hobby to me compared to this, yeah? Talkative, aren't you? I like your affected Euro rock accent, by the way. I'm just getting warmed up, Air Attorney Wright. What are you laughing at? What? He has no nickname for him yet? Yeah. Perhaps you would be so kind as to fill us in on the case? Tongue, baby. Time to call on the opening act. What was his name again? Ah, yes, Detective Gumshoe. Hit it. And you are? Hey, you were the one who called me up here, sir. Name's Dick Gumshoe. I'm a homicide detective down at the precinct. Detective Gumshoe. Long time no see. Hey, you. Huh? Me? Today's the day, pal. Today, I win and you lose. I got confidence in my testimony today, see? What, you normally lack confidence in your testimony? Air Detective, this is my stage. Can the antics. Huh? All this hey youing and such. And I could care less about your history together. Irk. Very well, Detective Gumshoe, if you would. Please tell us about the case at hand. It happened 6 days back, in a room at the General Hospital. The facts are as simple as they come. Here's the crime scene. The victim was a patient asleep in a hospital bed. The killer comes in, puts a pistol to his forehead, and bam, lights out. Them's the facts. Not so long ago, the victim, Magnifique Gramarier, was a famous man. He had the entire country under his magical spell, as it were. Ah, yes, the great magician. He retired years ago, though. Say the name Magnifique to one of my generation, and you'd be lucky to get a blank stare. Yes, though I'm sure the youngsters today know his disciples even better. I dare say Troupe Gramarier has made quite a name for themselves. Anyhow, the retired Magnifique's been in the hospital for the last year. What was it? A male ignorant tutor or something? Doing something to his liver, I think? Yeah. A malignant tumor, perhaps. In other words, he had liver cancer. He only had 3 months left to live, in fact. The facts do seem simple enough. But something's not right. The victim was already climbing a 3-month stairway to heaven. Why not wait for him to knock, knock, knock on heaven's door? Why shoot him? I wouldn't have put it quite so lyrically, but it's true. Why make the effort to commit murder when the victim was about to die? Incidentally, the victim had a serious case of diabetes. Diabetes. In fact, he was about to shoot up with insulin when he was shot with a pistol. The syringe was found at the crime scene. Chronic diabetes and cancer. As much as it pains me to say it, the victim was clearly at the end of his life. I believe the question before us is clear then. Why did the killer have to shoot this dying man? What reason could he have had? Very well, detective. Perhaps you can enlighten us as to the circumstances of the shooting. Let's look at the court record first. So this is the crime scene photo. I do see a gunshot on the left, too.
Yeah, but there's a big problem with the guy in the bed. He's not bleeding from the wound, which means he's already dead.
Yeah, that is a weird little, yeah.
And there was a page missing out of the diary. See,
yes. Yes. Ripped diary. 11 loss of blood from bullet wound. Malignant tumor found in victim's liver. It seems fate's clock will make me wait a little longer, at least only less than 10 swift minutes remain. To all those who supported me in my life's work, I give thanks. Farewell, Magnifi Grimarier. Magnifi's chart. Malignant tumor in liver has progressed to final stage with no hope for recovery. Patient has 3 months to live. Patient has chronic diabetes, requires regular insulin. Kitty, I always hated getting shots. I guess Magnifi was giving himself the insulin shots. There's no way I could do that. Ugh. Wait, and Magnifi used this to inject his insulin. Why are there no traces of it having been used? Something to keep in mind. Alright. Yes, sir. Actually, the victim kind of ordered the defendant to do him in. A few days before it happened, the victim sent a letter ordering his own murder. The defendant did what was asked of him and shot the old man in the forehead. The bullet was fired from the pistol found at the scene, no doubt about it. And the pistol definitely belonged to the old man, sir. What? You're saying the victim ordered his own shooting? Those are the facts. I have here the letter in question. To my beloved student Zach, to you I entrust the task of lowering my... We'll read it soon. Very unusual indeed. To my beloved student Zach, to you I entrust the task of lowering my life's curtain. Come on the 13th, 11:05 p.m. I will ready a gun with which you will shoot 1 shot square in the forehead. You cannot refuse, and we both know the reason why. Although, could such a thing as a letter really cause one to pull a trigger, I wonder? I believe the answer to that question can be found at the end of the letter. You cannot refuse, and we both know the reason why. Detective Gumshoe, can you explain this to the court? Unfortunately, even the defendant won't say a peep about that bit, sir. One thing bothers me about this. Why didn't he just say 11? Why have him come at 11:05 without some specific reason? The devil is in the details, Heir Attorney. Well, was there some reason? As it turns out, there was. Every night for a half hour starting at 11, the victim, Magnifi Grimarier, was given an IV. An IV? There it is in the picture, off to the side of the bed. At 11 o'clock, a doctor would come to set up the IV. 30 minutes later, he would come back for the empty bag. This happened every night without fail, so that was the only time they could meet without the chance of an untimely interruption. During his IV. Very well, shall we begin? Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, if you would. What's this reason he couldn't refuse, I wonder? He could have at least mentioned it to me. Just because he got the letter doesn't mean he went through with it. Oh, I disagree. The victim was indeed shot in the forehead after all, just as he had commanded. It could be a setup. But let's not be in such a hurry. Maybe we should let the witness talk for a change. Thanks, pal. Fine, I can play it slow as well as I can play it fast. On with the testimony, Detective Gumshoe. And this letter was sent by the victim. There it is. Gotcha! You're all mine this time, pal. Huh? I had the handwriting checked out, of course. It's the victim's, no mistake. I see. Ha 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 ha. Score 1 for the boys. I didn't lose, I was just ascertaining the facts. So why am I so annoyed? But a letter ordering your own death. Things aren't what they used to be, I guess. I'm not sure this is exactly commonplace even now, Your Honor. The defendant did what was asked of him and shot the old man in the forehead. He seems very excited to get that information. How can you be so sure? Hey, you gotta learn to stop relying on people to do your thinking for you, pal. Learn to think for yourself. Get that noggin cranking. You fail to grasp the concept of questioning, Detective. First, we got this letter. It says, shoot in the forehead loud and clear. I can see that, but I still wouldn't do it. Well, maybe you need to grow yourself a backbone, pal. You fail to grasp the concept of shooting people as bad, Detective. We also found the defendant's pistol at the scene. Traces of gunpowder residue shows that it had been fired recently. Well, Mr. Wright? As far as I can tell from looking at this photo, there seems to be no issue with the prosecution's claim. The photo. Maybe there's something in there I can use. So they're saying the defendant shot the victim in the forehead. I think there's a hole in the prosecution's argument. Clearly, Mr. Enigma
shot something else because he shot the clown.
Looking at this photo, another possibility occurs to me. Yes? What does the letter tell us? That the defendant had a reason he couldn't refuse his teacher's wishes. Bingo, pal. That's why the defendant popped him one in the forehead. Oh, the defense disagrees. You see, the defendant had another choice he could make. What, and you can prove that with this photo? I can prove he had a choice, yes. The defendant might have fired like he was ordered, but he didn't shoot the victim's forehead. Well, let's hear what you're thinking, Mr. Wright. If he didn't shoot the victim's forehead, what did the defendant shoot? Okay, there we go. The clown doll? Take a closer look, see? It's been shot in the forehead too. Ah, there's a hole in its forehead. Yes, and a hole in the prosecution's claim. Ha, and I suppose you have a reason as to why he'd shoot the clown doll? He didn't just shoot the doll, he shot the doll's forehead. His forehead. Ah. Let's read the orders once more, shall we? You will shoot one shot square in the forehead. Which is exactly what he did. He shot the clown doll square in the forehead. The defense has raised an intriguing possibility. That hole in the clown's forehead, it definitely looks like it was shot. Bailiff, send someone to investigate this matter. I admit I'm impressed, but I expected nothing less. Still, this doesn't mean he didn't shoot the victim. Perhaps he did have to shoot a forehead as ordered, but the letter says nothing about whose forehead. This was the only way he had to follow his orders without taking a life. The bullet hole in the clown doll's forehead does demand an explanation. It might very well be a clue, yet Prosecutor Gavin is right. It alone does not prove the defendant's innocence. You cannot say for sure the defendant didn't shoot the victim. So sorry, Mr. Wright. How sad it is to see the mighty fall. How sad it is to see the novice's overconfidence. He doesn't realize just how big this little hole is going to get. Detective Gumshoe, please take this newfound fact into account as you continue your testimony. So what if he shot the clown? He still shot the victim, pal. So let me get this straight. You're saying my client first shot the clown and then shot the victim. Hey, not a bad summary, pal. More of a confirmation than a summary, but whatever. That was really more of a confirmation than a summary. But our defense attorney seems pleased enough with himself. Do these people ever miss a chance to mock me? Well, now that Mr. Wright's gotten that out of his system, shall we continue with the testimony? I didn't have time to gather all the details before coming in here. This testimony might be my only source of information. Better pay attention and read this letter carefully. Let me press him on this again. You mean this pistol, the one in the crime scene photo? That's the one. It's a funny-looking gun, so there's no mistaking it. We compared the bullet taken from the victim's skull with a bullet fired from the gun. Rifling marks on the bullet were a perfect match. So you verified the murder weapon, in other words. You bet we did.
Can you examine that gun?
That's the thing, I was trying to see if there's a gun here to examine, but... there's not. Why are you so certain? What pile of sand has your head been stuck in all this time, pal? You never heard of Zack and Valen's quick draw shooter?
He's our friend.
What?
I thought Gumshoe was our friend.
I know, he's
Didn't he
like...
take us out to eat or something once?
Yeah. Now he's like, alright, you bested me long enough. You never heard of Zack and Valen's quick draw shoot 'em? Huh, what's that? One of the defendant's specialties. Zack and Valen stand on either side of a girl. Then they shoot. But the bullets don't hit her. Instead, they hit everything else on stage. This was one of the pistols they used in their show. Got a great design, huh? The kids love it. I don't think we pressed them on this. Many boys and girls joined the police because of that pistol, I hear. You know, that would explain a lot about the police force. Troop Kamarie stopped doing that act a little while ago. The old man held on to that pistol ever since. The court would like to see the pistol in question. You got it, sir. Here she is. Well, this truly is a blast from the past. It's a stage pistol for magic shows. But it can fire real bullets. It looks so much bigger in real life than on TV. Yeah, but it can only hold one round. By the way, the pistol's firing chamber is empty. And it shows traces of having been fired recently.
That's why I asked you to examine it, because you have two shots. One in
Yeah.
the forehead, one in the clown's forehead.
So you know what I think is going to happen? I think that's going to go into our court record. We'll present it when he says he also shot the victim. If it can only hold one bullet, then no, he couldn't have. Were any fingerprints found on the gun? Unfortunately, no. Of course, the defendant is known for wearing gloves. We might say that a lack of fingerprints is in fact a fingerprint of its own. Aha, intriguing point, well made. Whoa, 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 not well made, not intriguing. In any case, the court accepts this evidence. Fires one real bullet, barrel marks, match bullet found in victim, no fingerprints found. My grandchild will get a kick out of seeing this, but now it's time to return to our testimony.
Objection!
There we go. The trickiest cases often seem the simplest. Prosecutor Gavin, you missed the bullet hole in the clown's forehead. If you hadn't missed that, you might have come to a very different conclusion. Understand? Yeah, but like I just said, pal, after he shot the clown in the forehead, he went and did nothing of the sort to the victim. The pistol proves he could not. The murder weapon, how? It's quite simple, Your Honor. This pistol only holds one bullet at a time. Ah. If he had shot the clown in the forehead, he couldn't have shot the victim too. Yar! That's not a contradiction, not even close. All he had to do was reload the pistol after the first shot. Oh, where did he get the extra bullet? They're not so easy to come by, you know. If you claim the defendant had one ready, then prove to us how he got it. Heh, ha ha ha. I had a feeling this wasn't over yet. No, this party's just getting started, and I haven't proven anything yet beyond my good looks and startling record sales. An utter lack of humility. What's this? It seems that the prosecution has another witness prepared. Like I said, Air Detective was just a warm-up act. Ugh. Now that the audience has gotten a taste of what's to come, they're ready. Ready for what? For my decisive witness, of course. A witness who you will find can prove one thing for us. That it was Zack Kamarie who shot the victim in the forehead. Very well. We will pause for a 15-minute recess. This might be my lucky break. I'll need that 15 minutes to talk to my client, Zack. Court is adjourned. Oh, Gumshoe got vested. That wasn't too long either.
No. How long is the next one?
I don't know, but I guess we'll see. Very impressive, Mr. Wright. I have to say I expected nothing less. We've only just begun. I was hoping you could tell me a bit more about what happened, actually. I did not think you would believe me if I told you. But as you discovered the truth for yourself, I was thinking of you, you know. I think we need less thinking and more talking. That night in the hospital, what really happened? Ah, the way your eyes gleam, Mr. Wright. You'll scare Trucy. Speaking of which, where is she? You have seen the problem yourself, the letter. The one shot in the forehead. One, right? Yes, and the reason he speaks of. I could not deny my mentor's wishes, even if it meant my own death. Why not? This is something I will not say, for now at least. What's this for now business? I have done many things in my life, some well, some poorly. But this is a cross we must bear alone to our graves. We? You wanted to know about the night of the incident? Finally, this guy sure likes to take his time getting to the important stuff. Of course I had no intention of shooting my mentor. I snuck into his room that night at the appointed time, and found there upon his bedside table 2 pistols. 2? Yes, the one I had used on stage, and the one that had been used by my partner Valent. Oh, for the Zack and Valent's quick draw thing. My mentor had the look of one sleeping. I stood by his bedside, hearing only the light sound of his breathing. Then I took the pistol into my hand. I cannot deny that my resolve faltered then for a moment. You faltered? You mean you thought about shooting him? Recall there was a reason I could not refuse his request. His last such request, though not his first. So there were other requests you couldn't refuse before. To be honest, I've not always been steadfast, and I fear I've brought pain upon Trucy. Was Magnifi coercing his disciples somehow? Just what was going on in Troop Gamarier? Yet, in the end, I did not shoot him. Instead, I turned and shot the clown. I took the pistol I had fired and placed it in my pocket. In your pocket? I believe you examined the bullet in the clown's head. You will find it to be different than the one in my mentor. What were those called? Rifling marks. Yes, well, that is all I have to tell you concerning the case. Concerning the case? You mean there's something else you can tell me? Ha 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 ha. You are a fascinating man, Mr. Wright. Thanks? Yes, there is something. My mentor, his eyes open. What? Magnifi Gamarier? The old devil, he was not asleep, you see. Of course, the gunshot would have woken him anyway. And there, we had our last discussion as mentor and pupil. It was not a long discussion, maybe 5-10 minutes or so. What did you talk about? Ha ha, Mr. Wright, did I not just tell you? It does not concern this case. Zack Gamarier, he seems pretty steadfast to me, or maybe just stubborn. Mr. Wright, your presence is requested in the courtroom. Once again, I am in your hands. Right, let's get back in there. Court is now back in session. During our recess, a bullet was found in and dug out from the clown's head. Well, this is news, and the rifling marks? There wasn't time to do a detailed analysis, though they did find the weapon type matches the murder weapon. Well, that's not very conclusive, is it? Which is why I'm about to call my very decisive witness. A decisive witness? How many times have I heard those words? Though they often turn out to be far less decisive than you think. Oh, don't worry on my account. I'm quite confident this witness will do the job. After all, he is intimately acquainted with the players in our little production, being the other half of Troop Gamarier's famous duo, Zack and Valent. Valent Gamarier. So, we get to meet the great Magnifi's other disciple. Before he grew a mustache. Mm-hmm. Perhaps we'll start by asking your name and occupation. Valent Gamarier, magician. And you're the decisive witness, are you? You can prove your fellow student your partner's guilt? Fate, the grand illusion, filled with traps and tricks. Wait, the shooting took place in that hospital after 11 o'clock at night. If you're a witness, does that mean you were there that late? If one were to deduce this logically, the conclusion is yes. Okay. I always get the characters, don't I? I have an interesting fact for you. You see, several days before the crime, my witness received this. That looks very familiar. Wait, that's the same letter Zacrimarier received. Yes, or perhaps I should say, ta-da! Order, order, order. And what does it say? Surely not the same thing. Perhaps you should see for yourself. 1120. Why, it's practically the same. The court accepts this into evidence. This is most unusual. Exactly what was going on with you folks? What exactly was your true Grimarier up to? By which you mean? I'm just having trouble envisioning a man who would ask his students to kill him. Both of them, no less. It's just my opinion, Herr Judge. But from these letters, I'd say he was coercing them, not asking them. We walked the magician's path together, and in doing so shared much of our lives. When people are so close, there is a strain, a warping of relations, you might say. Yet this has nothing to do with the case at hand. By which you mean you're not going to tell us. Which makes me wonder even more about this reason they couldn't refuse. Well, let's get on with the testimony for starters. The defendant, Zacrimarier, stands accused. Tell us why. Oh, I'll do more than that. For where he walks, the red roses rise, singing hymns to the miracle that is magic. Fascinating. Though I hardly need to remind you that the evidence could just as clearly point to you as the suspect. The letter, the murder weapon, and now the 2 bullets found at the scene. In fact, the only difference seems to be the designated time. Ha 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 ha. As every magician knows, timing is everything. Yes. And now it's time to get this party fired up. That night I visited the hospital room at the time Magnifi requested. The smell of gunpowder hung in the room, and my mentor had taken his final bow. I did not imagine my fellow student might have received the same instructions. Yet a deal with the dead is still a deal. Death's sweet kiss I gave to the clown. Then I informed the doctor and the police. So you were the one who reported the crime. Indeed. I would think this fact alone would clear my name of suspicion. Let's not jump to any conclusions. Yes, the cross-examination generally comes before the conclusions in this court. But if your testimony proves to be true, then the defendant Zacrimarier is guilty. And if it wasn't Zacrimarier, then the killer was you, Valant. And no disappearing out will get you out of that. Alright, let's press. Which, according to the letter, was 11:20 p.m. Indeed. In magic, timing is everything. Right. Consider the illusion of teleportation. If I were to appear on stage before my stunt double has left, how would that look? Why, it would reveal the very secrets of my magic. Now that you've revealed the very secrets of your magic for all of us, let's move on. You went at the designated time, and what did you see? The smell of gunpowder hung in the room, and my mentor had taken his final bow. So, you weren't worried for your own safety at all? I mean, you smelled gunpowder, yes? What if the shooter was still nearby?
Ooh, you don't like that.
I did not consider this, to be honest. It is forbidden for a magician to have a good imagination. Really? Isn't magic all about illusions and imagination? How about this? You were the shooter, which is why you weren't afraid. Now you are the one imagining. It is forbidden for a lawyer to have a good imagination.
Actually, it's not true either.
The witness will refrain from pausing so suspiciously before responding. My forbidden imagination is starting to imagine things. I did not imagine my fellow student might have received the same instructions. Which brings us back to this reason neither of you could refuse. So it does, and my partner, he did not refuse. But Magnifi wrote the same thing to you. Why could you refuse if Zack couldn't? Because I have a will of steel, of course. I also do this trick where I bend steel bars, so perhaps steel isn't all so strong. So which is it? Mind if I continue? Yet a deal with the dead is still a deal. That sweet kiss I gave to the clown. There were 2 bullet holes at the scene, one in the victim and one in the clown. You're saying that the one who shot the clown was you. No doubt my partner Zach has said much the same thing. Yeah, because whoever didn't shoot the clown committed murder. I'd better dig around here a bit more and see what I turn up. Mr. Valen, let me ask about something else concerning the crime scene, namely...
The number of pistols?
Yeah, let's see if there's any contradiction there. How many pistols were there when you entered the room? By which you mean what, precisely? 2 pistols were used in the Zack and Valen quick-draw shoot-'em, correct? 1 for each of you. You are well informed, yet only one of my old friends sat in the hospital room that night. What did Zack tell me back on the lobby? Of course I had no intention of shooting my mentor. I snuck into his room that night at the appointed time, and found there upon his bedside table 2 pistols. I took the pistol I had fired and placed it in my pocket. I see no problem with the statement. Only 1 pistol is visible in the photograph of the crime scene after all. So you picked up that pistol and fired it. Indeed I did. Alakazam? Alakazing? Alakaboom. Is the number of pistols really so important?
Yes, because they can both only hold 1.
That's right. The number of pistols is quite important, Your Honor. Very well. Please add this detail to your testimony. What can I do but obey? Let me, I'm not presenting anything, but I want to actually look at this. I'm not sure there's anything to see. Oh, here we go. There we go. If you look closely, you can see how the pistol's made to bend here. It's a one-shot only model, and I guess this bend is where you load it. So this is the famous Gremarier Golden Gun. They say kids used to love pretending they had one of these. I wonder if they pretended to miss their targets, too. So, you took the only pistol there and fired it. That's correct. And that pistol was this one, which was left at the crime scene. Good show! I see you too are a magician of sorts. And you're an idiot of sorts. Do you have any idea what you just said? Hold on, So you took the only pistol there and fired it. And the pistol was this one, which was left at the crime scene. I see the fire in your eyes as you glare at the witness. So how about heating up this trial a bit? These slow ballads bore me. I've got a hunch, but maybe that's all it is. Maybe I should ask about something else. I mean, we're calling him an idiot, so I feel like he gave away something. Maybe the fact that there's only 1 gun, but there's 2 bullets in the picture? On second thought, let's run with this testimony for a while longer. So let's try that. Maybe it's the gun itself, then. There we go.
The gun itself?
Yeah. I think that's what kind of you were getting at. According to the defendant, Zach Gremarier, when he entered the room, there were 2 pistols on that table. 2? One of those pistols he used to shoot the clown in the forehead. Then he left with it in his pocket. Of course, this is what he would say. Unlike the hapless clown, we must assume our defendant has some brains in his head. Well, what about what Mr. Valen told us? You see, there's something about this testimony, his testimony, that doesn't make sense. What might that be? I told you I took the pistol that was there and shot the clown. That's your story, at least. But the rifling marks tell a very different story, Mr. Valent. Recall what Prosecutor Gavin told us. We compared the bullet taken from the victim's skull with a bullet fired from this gun. The rifling marks on the bullets were a perfect match. Ah. Mr. Valent, if you fired this pistol, then you shot the victim in the forehead. Order, order, order! Well, this is all rather sudden. Hehehehe. What have I done? Prosecutor Gavin, I owe the court an apology. Sorry. Sorry for what? You see, I was unaware that 2 of these unique pistols were crafted. The analysis of the rifling marks only proved the type of gun that fired them. But that's not what you told us before. You said you'd verified the murder weapon. Which is why I'm apologizing to you now, quite sincerely, I might add. Would you hold me accountable for a mistake made in my youth? That was just this morning. I am still young. And I might add, it wasn't really my fault. If the defendant had only admitted he took 1 pistol from the scene of the crime, we would not be having this pleasant discussion now. Valent Grimoire? Yes, Your Honor. You were presented to this court as a decisive witness, but you've proven to be more divisive than decisive.
Objection!
You'll see in time. The testimony so far has merely been a review of the facts. The proof comes next. Care to elaborate, Prosecutor Gavin? When Mr. Valent entered the hospital room, the victim had already been shot. As his next testimony will prove, ere right, the real fight is about to begin. Bring it. Very well, the witness will now testify to the court. Help us determine who shot what. It just picked up speed. I arrived in the hospital room at the appointed time, which is to say 11:20 p.m. After discovering the body, I fulfilled my obligation, then called in the doctor. The doctor examined the body before the police arrived. He was quite clear about the time of death, 11:10 p.m. And the one in the room at that time was my partner, not me. Those times are rather close, you have to admit. You're talking about an alibi established over a matter of minutes. To use a 10-minute discrepancy as the basis of your alibi is easy to explain in this situation, Herr Judge. For example, take our debut hit single, 13 Years Hard Time for Love. Cue to the song, press the play button, and it will play for 2 minutes 15 seconds. Do it 100 times, the result is the same. Their debut single was only 2 minutes and 15 seconds long. What a ripoff. Magic is a word of utmost precision. Hocus pocus requires admirable focus. And in the time of death determined by the doctor, there is an incontrovertible truth. Very well. The prosecution warns us that we're dealing with rather precise times, and we can expect the cross-examination to require the same level of precision. I would hope the defense refrains from its customarily broad, sweeping accusations, lest we blur the focus this case so clearly demands. Point taken. Baseless remarks will result in a penalty. Carry on, Mr. Wright. Carry on, Wright.
Hold it!
11:20 p.m. Can you prove that's when you arrived? Alas, such a feat may be beyond even the great Valent, for there was no one in that room but Magnifi, and he was departed after a fashion. I have here defendant Zack Grimarier's sworn deposition. I stuck into his room that night at the appointed time. It was 10 minutes before I left the room, and the victim was still alive. The time indicated by the letter to Zack was 11:05 p.m. Exactly, which means the witness could not have entered that room before 11:15, because his partner was still in the middle of his crime. I see someone did their arithmetic homework. You see? The defendant himself has corroborated the witness's testimony. Does this all make sense? I don't like that our health is doing that. Maybe we can wait and not say this is a contradiction yet?
Okay.
I don't see any problem with that testimony. If you say so, let's continue, shall we? Sometimes the most magical thing of all is the truth. After discovering the body, I fulfilled my obligation and called in the doctor. You walk in on a murder and the first thing you do is shoot the clown. The disciple does what the disciple must. My mentor's request without reason had caused, for me, a surfeit of sorrow. For what would I, Valen, be now without him? May the soul of Magnifi the Great find greater peace above. This I muttered to I believe this is nothing more than what we have already learned. I'm still waiting for... Proceed with that in mind. Yes, Your Honor. What a pain this is turning out to be. Did the doctor say anything concerning the cause of death? Why, yes. I believe he screamed, "My God, he's been shot in the head!" It doesn't take a doctor to notice that. I probably would have screamed the same thing. And I would have penned the requiem that arose in my soul at that horrid sight. Whatever happened to good old-fashioned investigation? In any case, I believe this is nothing more than what we have already learned. I'm still waiting for one of those right moments, Herr Attorney. May I remind you that baseless remarks will earn penalties. Proceed with that in mind. Yes, Your Honor.
Do we have something like the autopsy report?
Estimated time 11 to 11:30. I don't know why that's a frame and this is 11:10.
Well, he's saying that the doctor said one time.
But this is the police report.
Yeah.
Let's keep pressing for now. I don't think I'm stepping out on a limb to say I have some doubts about this. How could the doctor be so precise with the time? We do usually only get an estimated time of death, true. I'm not sure I've heard of a verified time of death. Magic revels in making the complex appear simple, but reality is the opposite. What appears complex in this case is a simple matter of subtraction. I see another person has done their arithmetic homework. The point here is the IV the victim was taking. It's quite visible in the photograph of the scene.
Well, he's not taking it. It's not in yet. But it was in when Valiant was there.
Yeah.
So has the doctor already come and taken it out?
Makes me wonder here. Recall what we heard earlier about the victim, Magnifi Grimarier's schedule. Every night at 11, Magnifi took an IV drip for 30 minutes. I can see the IV bag right there, yes. Now look a little closer. Follow the tube down from the bag to the end. Ah, the needle's been removed. Doubtlessly, it fell out when he was shot. That would seem to be the case. When the needle comes out, the IV no longer drips. Ah, you could just measure the remaining IV liquid. Precisely. The IV liquid functions for our purposes as an hourglass of sorts. This is how the doctor determined the time of death. From the amount remaining in the bag, it was determined that the IV had stopped 10 minutes after administration began. We got some new evidence. And so it was, when I, Valen, entered that room. 10 minutes had passed since that horrible crime was committed. And this is proof. Well, Mr. Wright, did that seem important? Yeah. Well, seeing how it is the biggest clue we have to the time of death, I'd say it's very important. Agreed. It would be hard to imagine a more precise way to determine the time. Behold the power of arithmetic. Very well, the witness will add this detail to his testimony. Sometimes the most magical thing of all is the truth. The water of life springs not eternal. The remaining IV liquid proves my innocence. Did you notice the IV yourself by any chance? When first I entered that room, the stench of gunpowder assailed me. Next, the mark of death upon my mentor's forehead. And then his left arm, did I spy, arose, drooping and wilted. Its thorn, the discarded IV needle. Knocked from the vein by the force of the shot, luckily for you. If that IV had not been there, why, you might be a suspect. Indubitably so. I might say it's thanks to my lucky color. Your lucky color? Indeed, even today I wear it proudly upon my suspect self, for it always, without fail, brings me luck. Why, when Zack and Valent won their first Magicians Grand Prix, yes, the very one held by the Association of International Magicians, or AIM, I was adorned in this attire then too, and our trophy, a bust. Ah, what a day that was. This is one trip down memory lane no one needs. My lucky color, yes indeed, and that IV too. I say I think 'twas hued especially for me, Valent. That does seem to be the case indeed. Well, Mr. Wright, any thoughts on this testimony? Valent sure looks happy with himself. Okay, how about this lucky color testimony? Was it yellow?
Green, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's green. Let's just go... Yeah, there's a contradiction. It certainly sounds like your lucky colors brought you plenty of luck. But not this time. Mr. Valent, your lucky colors betrayed you. I'm afraid you've lost me. Your Honor, the witness's testimony just now clearly contradicts the evidence. What? Please recall my warning at the beginning of this cross-examination, Mr. Wright. Baseless accusations will be duly penalized. I do hope this latest accusation is well-based. Don't worry, I've got all your bases right here. Very well, let's hear the defense's claim. Where is your evidence that contradicts what Mr. Valent has told us? This. Because it's green. The crime scene tells all, Your Honor. The photo of the crime scene. All this talk of color has me yearning for black and white, clear-cut simplicity. Tell us, Air Wright, just where is the contradiction in this photo? My pleasure, and I assure you it's quite simple. But I can't promise anything in black and white. Let's hear what Mr. Wright has to say. What in this photo contradicts the witness's testimony? Let's do it. Valent Grimoire, let's get one thing straight about your lucky color. It's yellow, yes? Kinda takes the mystery out of it, but yes. Something wrong with yellow, Mr. Wright? Yes, there is. Decisively wrong, in fact. Take another look at the photo of the crime scene. What's this? Confusion, doubt. Tell us, what do your elderly eyes spy? Even my elderly eyes can see a problem here, Mr. Valent. Look at that IV bag. What is this? What foul magic? It would be hard to call the IV liquid yellow, and I'm afraid no magic was involved in the taking of this photograph. Ah. Alakaz... No!
Rabbit coming back? Oh dear.
Order. What does this mean? This is some kind of mistake. Yes, Prosecutor Gavin, your witness's mistake. The greener they are, the harder they fall. I suppose there's no substitute for experience. Valent Grimoire, as you reminded us several times, your lucky color is yellow, but the IV is clearly not. Well, this contradiction can mean only one thing. And to think, you almost had me. I see your true colors now, Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright. Something you'd like to tell us, Prosecutor Gavin? As far as this court can tell, the witness's testimony does contradict the evidence. Yes, a contradiction. One that I shall be pleased to hand right back to Mr. Wright. How do you mean? How? Because the witness has made no mistakes. I agree, at a glance, the IV liquid does appear a sort of greenish yellow, but I assure you the liquid itself is quite yellow. Yellow liquid? How can you say...
blue, his bag is blue.
Yeah, blue and yellow makes green. As far as I can tell from this photo, it's green. Yes, but what color is the IV bag itself? The bag? You mean the plastic bag on the hook? It looks like I want to say light blue. Precisely. Figured it out yet? Put a yellow liquid in a blue bag and you get green. This, incidentally, is the liquid's true color. I see. Your explanation does have the ring of truth to it.
Objection!
As I thought. There's no substitute for experience, Prosecutor Gavin. What? You may tell a good tale, but you've just proven something rather grave, for you that is. Grave? The liquid in the IV is yellow, yes. But how did this witness know that? It's quite unnatural when you think about it. You did think about it, didn't you? Ah. Your Honor, the defense requests an explanation from the witness. At the scene of the crime, the IV liquid appears to be green. So let me ask, how did the witness know the IV liquid was actually yellow? Ooh, we got the cornered music! Alakazam! Oh my god! Order, order, order! Mr. Wright, you will explain this at once. The witness clearly knew the color of the IV liquid. So I'm sure it means something, but what? I can think of only one possibility, Your Honor. The witness, Valentin Marie, has testified that the IV liquid was yellow because...
You've seen it before?
He'd seen it before. He knew the color. It's not that, and no, it's not that it looked yellow. If he'd seen it before... I don't actually know between those two. You think he'd seen it before?
Uh-huh.
From the facts before us, the answer is clear. The witness knew that the IV liquid was yellow. Why? Because he'd seen it before. But not inside the blue bag we see in the photo. We saw the liquid by itself in a clear, colorless bag. He saw it. I suppose he would have had to, but I'm still not clear as to what all this means. I'm glad we went with you, because I would have went with the third choice, and that would have gotten us penalized. Ask yourself, why would he know if he didn't work at a hospital? That's where you'll find your meaning, Your Honor. I'm afraid I find nothing, so what if he knew the IV liquid's color? Leave the getting excited over absolutely nothing to our TD Bopper fans, yeah? The IV liquid is the only evidence proving the time of death. A 30-minute hourglass with 20 minutes worth of sand remaining. Your claim, Prosecutor Gavin. I remember it well. However, there's a critical difference between an hourglass and an IV bag. Wait, I know! An hourglass uses sand, but an IV bag uses liquid. I'm right? As much as it pains me to say this, Your Honor, no. Unlike the sand through an hourglass, IV liquid enters the patient's body, at which point, like magic, it disappears. However, what if the amount of IV liquid had increased? You couldn't tell, could you? After all, there's no way of knowing how much went in. Let me get this straight, Arrow Wright. You're saying the witness watered down the victim's IV bag. Not with water, but with IV liquid. That's how you knew the IV liquid was yellow. Now wait, I said wait. How might an amateur such as myself essay to perform such a task? I think it might be assay, but... I'm an amateur too, but I can pour water into a cup. I'm afraid there's quite a big difference between a cup and an IV bag. Quite. Can you prove our witness is capable of such a feat? He has a point, amateurs. I, at least, would have some difficulty pouring IV liquid into that bag. You don't need to be an expert to see the look on the witness's face. He added liquid to that IV to throw off the time of death. I tire of these fairy tales lacking evidence. Well, Mr. Wright, any solid evidence to bring us back down to earth? Valentin Marie, I'm afraid your magic won't serve you well in a life of crime. Might I ask what you're strongly suggesting? Magic relies on props, and props become evidence. Our witness was certainly able to increase the amount of IV liquid in the bag. All he had to do was work a little magic, and the prop was... the syringe? Maybe?
They said it had no... Wait, what did it say?
What did what say?
The syringe.
Has been washed and shows no sign of use. Okay. Okay, so actually...
guess he could have used the syringe.
I mean, it shows no sign of use, but everything else is a bunch of letters and stuff.
I guess they go with the syringe.
Yeah.
Take that!
The victim's syringe. It's the perfect prop for the magically increasing IV trick, and easy enough for an amateur to use.
Objection!
What kind of evidence is that? The syringe was clean, not a trace of liquid in it.
Objection!
And don't you find that odd, Prosecutor Gavin? What? The victim had the syringe to administer his insulin shots. There should have been traces of insulin left inside. Well, Valent Grimoire, as you pointed out yourself, the IV liquid makes the perfect clock. One that you could manipulate at will. Alakazam!
I do like the rap.
I like his freak out. I do believe, well, with this being his first, that the burden of this trial has been a bit too much to bear for Prosecutor Gavin. I'm afraid that while there is a doubt as to the amount of IV liquid in that bag, the time of death cannot be proven, and that brings our trial to a close for today. Well, maybe I can squeeze an extra day out of this. I can do a little much-needed investigation work. I see there are no objections. Court is adjourned. Truly, there's no substitute for experience. Nothing blinds one to the truth so effectively. A word to the wise. Underestimate the young, and they'll sweep your feet out from under you, in a way you never ever expected. You see, I know exactly what you're thinking. What's he talking about? You say the witness used the syringe to manipulate the level of the IV liquid? But there's no proof. There's no proof he didn't do it either. Yes, quite true. Ah, he's admitting it. Nor was this witness quite as decisive as I'd hoped. This I admit. After all, why linger in the past when the future holds so much? You have something in mind, Prosecutor Gavin? Proof, Herr Judge. I have another way to prove my case. With evidence, no less. What's this? This is the victim, Magnifi Grimoire's diary. Diary? After going into the hospital, Magnifi began writing his memoirs, it seems. The story of his birth, his startling debut, and of meeting his disciples. It seems he intended for the last chapter to end, quite appropriately, with his death. Wait, that book doesn't say what the reason was, does it? The reason why his disciples couldn't refuse his last request? Sadly, it does not. What's important here is on the last page. Apparently, the victim wrote in his journal that night, even after the IV had begun at 11 p.m. Let's read it, shall we? Tonight's IV is in, maybe the last. I leave the rest to them. The first should come soon. This journal may end here, or it may go on, but not long. It depends on his hand. All that is left to mine is to something this pen. We'll read it soon. This does appear to have been written just before his death. To lay down this pen. The court accepts this into evidence. Tonight's IV is in, maybe the last. Diary ends here. I leave the rest to them. Journal may end here, it may go on, but not long. That depends on his hand. All that is left to mine is to lay down this pen. This is the last page. The diary ends here. Huh? What's this? It looks like a page was ripped out? Well now, isn't that interesting? And there's the hat. Read the last part with particular care. This journal may end here or it may go on, but not long. That depends on his hand. Of course, by his, he refers to our defendant, Zach Grimoire. That would make sense, yes. He was the first scheduled visitor, after all. But look at what he said before that. This journal may end here or it may go on. It may go on! Magnifi Grimoire intended to write again. Grimoire didn't pull the trigger. I see the defense understands the meaning of this. The victim's diary does not go on. It ends. Because Magnifi's life was brought to an end by the defendant, Zach Grimoire. Order, order, order. Prosecutor Gavin, are you certain that Magnifi Grimoire wrote this? There is no mistaking his handwriting. Well, this does seem to be significant. According to this, Magnifi did intend to continue his diary, yet if his diary ended here, which plainly it did, then the one who pulled the trigger was the first visitor, Zach Grimoire. Well, how do you like me now, Air Wright? Still too green for your taste, He's right about the diary being pretty clear. Still, I find it hard to believe that he'd overlook such an obvious problem with his precious evidence.
Page is ripped out.
Well, Mr. Wright, the witness's testimony we heard was lacking. But put together with this evidence, it seems quite sufficient for a case. If the diary is accepted like this, the trial's over. Maybe it's time for me to show them something. Let's do it. I'm left with no choice but to show my own evidence. What? You have some evidence that overturns this diary? It's not too late to rethink this and avoid more embarrassment. Very well, please show us your evidence, Mr. Wright. Incidentally, don't even think of showing us this diary I've shown the court. Now that we've come this far, I hope you have something a little more decisive. Show us evidence that proves the victim continued writing his diary. Alright, I'd be happy to. The decisive evidence proving that the diary didn't end with this page is...
Is it torn out?
It seems fate's clock will make me wait a little longer. At least only less than 10 swift minutes remain. To all those who have supported me in my life's work, I give thanks. Farewell. Present. First, take a close look at this diary. Note that a page has clearly been ripped out. What's this? I hadn't noticed that at all. That's why we're still here talking about this. As it just so happens, I have here what I believe to be the missing page. Alaka, I don't believe it! Looking at this page, it's hard to imagine that the first visitor that night shot Magnifi Grimoire. That's the defense's position. Wait, let me see that. What in Sam Hill? Why, this is the continuation of the victim's diary. Note the torn edge of the page. It's a perfect match with the torn remains of the last page in Magnifi's diary. Quite remarkable. Would you care to explain what all this means, Air Attorney? The diary continued after his first visitor came, which means that the victim was still alive after Zach Grimoire left, leaving no one to take his life but the second visitor. Fallon Grimoire. No. No! The handwriting, too, matches that on the other pages. This is without a doubt the genuine article. Order, order, order. But wait, that's impossible. That old man couldn't have written that. Finally. You just couldn't resist, could you, Air Wright? Resist what? Presenting solid evidence? Air Judge? Yes, Prosecutor Gavin. Might I request we put the current cross-examination on hold? The prosecution would like to call a new witness. But, Prosecutor Gavin, this evidence overturns the current witnesses. I only asked to put it on hold. Please, my new witness has a very, very important piece of testimony to give. 5 minutes, no more. I promise, Your Honor. Well, if you put it that way, Mr. Wright, what's your take on this? Well, Your Honor, judging from his enthusiasm, we'll have to hear this new testimony sooner or later anyway. So it might as well be sooner. Then, though this is highly, highly irregular, we will put the current cross-examination on hold The witness may step down. Now, Prosecutor Gavin, please bring the surprised witness to the courtroom. I had a bad feeling just then. That ripped-out page was too obvious. He must have known. And I should have known it was a bad sign all around. Holding trial with no audience is a first, even for me, Prosecutor Gavin. I beg the court's understanding. But I had to make a judiciary deal with the witness to secure his testimony. A judiciary deal? The details of his testimony may have some legal ramifications, shall we say. I thought it best to contain the information to this room. Very well, and you are the witness, I gather. Ah, yes, sir. State your name and occupation for the record. My name is Zhu Misham. I'm a painter. A painter, and you are somehow related to this case. No, well, not per se. I have one simple question for this witness. Mr. Misham, was it? Do you know what this is? Oh, yeah, I know it well. How's that possible? Have you seen his diary page somewhere before? Oh yeah, I mean, I made it. You... what? You made it? Yes. You might call it one of my works. The prosecutor's office received a tip-off yesterday. Illegal evidence has been prepared for the trial of Zachary Marier. Illegal evidence? I initiated an investigation and found this witness. A painter to the world at large, Zhu Misham has another side, you might say. He is skilled in making perfect reproductions of certain things. Forgeries, in other words. Forgeries? Well, so we're to understand that this page here is a fake, prepared by a certain defense attorney. Hold it. I didn't prepare this evidence. Ah, the attorney speaks. Something about this page, I presume, but what is he saying? It makes no sense. After all, it was you who presented this evidence to us, Phoenix, right? Witness, or Mr. Misham, was it? Who requested this forgery? Who was your client? That, I don't know. What? Most of my clients prefer to remain anonymous, even to me. I make the items they want and receive my payment. That's the extent of my contact with them.
Objection!
But there's no proof this is a fake. It's a fake. Huh? To avoid just this sort of problem, I always put a special mark on my works. I can say without a doubt, this is mine. Mr. Wright, you have just presented illegal evidence to this court. My court. It was careless of me. That's all I can say. Oh, old boy. Here. What's this? I don't know. I just got it over there in the hall. They told me to give it to the old boy in the blue suit with the spiky hair. They said it was really important. It was all a trap. A fatal trap. Mr. Wright? Yes. Do you have an explanation for yourself? If I did, would the court hear it? Probably not. Forging evidence is a serious crime, and presenting it in court, a serious mistake. A fatal mistake for an attorney. Fatal, too, perhaps, for your client, I fear. Tell me, what kind of defendant relies on forged evidence? The answer is quite clear. A guilty one.
Objection!
Your Honor, wait. I understand that presenting forged evidence in court is a serious crime, but you cannot hold my client responsible for actions I undertook as an individual. I'm sorry, Mr. Wright. Your Honor, another close call, I dare say. If the prosecutor's office hadn't received that hot tip, everything would have gone the way you wanted it to, yeah? I even gave you a chance. Too bad you decided not to think before embarrassing yourself. I see no need for further discussion on this matter. Special witness dismissed. Mr. Attorney? Yes? Can I ask your name? Phoenix Wright. Mr. Wright, I have seen and studied many people, but none like you. I'll remember you, Mr. Wright. Though I deeply regret having to declare a verdict in this way, this trial is over. You have the right to find a new attorney and make an appeal. However, this court must... Ah, Your Honor? Yes, Mr. Zack. There is one thing I wish to make clear. Today, in this courtroom, you cannot declare me guilty. It is impossible. I'm afraid the defendant is quite mistaken. I most certainly have the authority to declare a verdict on you. Except, tell me, how do you plan on announcing your verdict when your defendant does not exist? Doesn't exist? What are you talking about? I am talking about this. Mr. Enigmar, the defendant's escaped. Find him quick. Bailiff, close all exits from the building. On the double, he must not be allowed to escape. That day, in that courtroom, a miracle occurred. The defendant, Shady Enigmar, aka Zack Grimarier, did not just escape from court. He literally, unbelievably vanished. Right before the bailiff's eyes. No one ever saw him again. Not since that day. This is the Grimarier miracle. Ah ha 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 ha. No verdict was declared. After all, the defendant didn't exist. That's how it happened. The trial of magician Zack Grimarier vanished, along with him for all eternity. The mysteries that remained behind were all solved, however, but not until 7 years later.
Okay, good stopping point.
Very good stopping point. What'd you think of that?
That was mean.
That was what?
Mean.
Mean?
Mean.
What's with Trucy handing attorneys fake evidence?
I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to play tomorrow.
Yes, we will. Looking forward to that. Play tomorrow we will. I am going to stop the stream. Just making sure it did go through and all. Yep. Yes, it did. All right. Got pretty far today.